Shinpei has a dream of his childhood friend Ushio telling him to protect her sister Mio. As he awakens on the ferry, he accidentally falls into a woman's breasts only to get slapped. He is traveling home to Hitogashima Island for Ushio's funeral. Su, one of his other friends, reveals that Ushio drowned after saving a young girl named Shiori. That night Mio is seen outside staring vacantly until a relative named Tetsu, Hitogashima's only police officer, comes along. Su tells Shinpei that marks on Ushio's neck suggest that she was strangled, and yet witnesses saw her drown. At the same time, Mio gives Shinpei Ushio's seashell necklace. The next evening, Tetsu reveals that Shiori and her family have gone missing overnight. Mio explains a week before Ushio's death, Shiori claimed to have seen a clone of herself. Nezu, the island's hunter, calls this shadow sickness, a disease that causes a person's shadow to come alive before killing them and their relatives. Mio claims that before Ushio died they had both seen a shadow of Ushio. As the disease could supposedly be cleansed at Hito Shrine, they head there only to see a shadow resembling Shiori. Hearing a gunshot, they heads to that direction and find the woman from the ferry bleeding. She attempts to speak but is shot again by a shadow of Mio, who shoots Mio and Shinpei, killing them both. He suddenly awakens back on the ferry, falling into the woman's breast once again. Shinpei convinces himself that it was a nightmare. However, upon arriving at the island, he finds the day plays out exactly like before and notices the sound of a camera at Ushio's funeral. This time Shinpei is present when Mio stares vacantly at the house, and when Tetsu arrives he sees her murdering Tetsu, causing him to realize that she is Shadow Mio, and she replaces Tetsu's corpse with a Shadow Tetsu. The sound of the camera is actually the shadows disintegrating their victim's body into dust. Soon Shinpei is found and stabbed by Mio. As he dies, Ushio's spirit again tells him to save Mio. He awakens again, this time having already gotten off the ferry onto the island's dock. With a clearer memory this time, he is able to stop Mio from falling off the dock due to the brakes on her bike being tampered with. The ferry woman is shown observing the events on the island and sending a report to someone unknown. Shinpei lodges a fake police report to keep Tetsu away that night and leaves his phone hidden to record Shadow Mio staring vacantly. He also notices one of his eyes has changed color. He shows the recording to Mio as proof shadow sickness is real and her shadow intends to kill her. Mio realizes Ushio must have been murdered by the shadow Ushio and decides that they should save Shiori. At Shiori's home, Shinpei finds dust piles proving that Shiori's parents were killed after the funeral, and that Shiori who attended the funeral was Shadow Shiori, suggesting that she had been killed before Shinpei arrived on the island. He attempts to trace the woman from the ferry but is unsuccessful. Tetsu, having been away on Shinpei's fake police report, isn't killed, and so Shiori's disappearance is investigated properly and a detective is invited from the mainland. He also gives Shinpei Ushio's phone, which she had given to Tetsu the day before she died, insisting Shinpei would know why. Needing more help, Shinpei tells Su everything, and Su suggests that if shadows can be photographed they have physical bodies and can be killed. Mio suggests asking the priest Hiruko at the shrine, but Shinpei delays this until tomorrow since it was at the shrine where Shadow Mio killed them. Like the previous day, Mio gives Shinpei Ushio's necklace again. The next day the island holds its annual festival. Shinpei realizes Su has a crush on Mio, and after a silly confrontation Shinpei only admits to liking Mio as a sister, which seems to disappoint her. Shinpei sees what appears to be Ushio's ghost and chases her to the beach where she watches the fireworks. Ushio is convinced she is alive again and can remember that she died, wanting to tell Shinpei she loved him. Shinpei suspects she is a shadow that actually believes she is Ushio. Ushio insists on seeing her friends and family, but Shinpei angrily refuses. Mio calls his phone, which Ushio answers before he can stop her, forcing him to lie to Mio. He asks Ushio to stay hidden and meets up with Mio at the shrine, where Su suddenly confesses his love to her, though Mio rejects him. Ushio reveals herself and is devastated when Mio believes that she is a shadow and calls her a monster. Shinpei suddenly reveals he is actually Shadow Shinpei, scolds Ushio for drawing unwanted attention, and then breaks her wrist. 10 minutes previously, Shinpei had been found out by Shadow Mio with a Shadow Shinpei, who had copied his memories while at Shiori's house. He copies Shinpei's latest memories and realizes that he has been looping back in time, so he stops Mio from killing him to prevent this and goes to meet Ushio at the shrine, claiming she really is Shadow Ushio, who for some reason has betrayed her fellow shadows. Mio begins torturing Shinpei, revealing their ultimate plan is to resurrect their sleeping mother. He is suddenly saved by the woman from the ferry, who shoots Shadow Mio in the head. Shadow Mio disappears and the woman introduces herself as Nagumo Ryunosuke, who is there to save him. She reveals how to tell shadows apart from humans, since their true form is the shadow flat on the ground and not the fake body above it. Shinpei rushes to the shrine and finds everyone killed by a giant shadow. The giant shadow identifies Shinpei's eye as the eye of their mother, which controls time. Shadow Ushio still insists that she is human and rejects her fellow shadows. Meanwhile, Mio is disintegrated. Giant Shadow absorbs the other shadows and disintegrates all the dead humans, sending out a massive shadow in every direction that disintegrates every human on the island. A red light appears over the shrine as Mother awakens, a young girl who Nagumo recognizes as someone called Hain. With everyone dead, Shinpei pleads for Nagumo to kill him so he can start over. The giant shadow tries to stop them, but he is stopped by Shadow Ushio, allowing Nagumo to shoot Shinpei in the head, declaring next time she will definitely save him. As he flies back in time, Ushio once again tells him to save Mio. Arriving back on his first day, he realizes the distance he can travel back is slowly shrinking as he now appears not on the ferry or even the docks, but almost arriving at Mio's house. With 3 days until Mother's resurrection, he is determined to do it right this time. On this rewind, it is revealed that Nagumo reached the island already aware of the shadow's presence. The island priest, Karakiri Masahito, greets her at the funeral as Minakata Hizuru, revealing she grew up on the island. Shinpei, who is determined to do things right, uses Nagumo's trick for detecting shadows and realizes at the funeral that Shiori and both her parents were already shadows. Shinpei receives Nagumo's phone number in a code from Ushio's father Alan and solves it, but Nagumo had given her phone to her contact on the island Nezu Jinjiru, who answers the phone. To test if Shinpei is human, Nezu shoots his shadow and confirms that he indeed is a human. Meanwhile, Nagumo does the same on Alan in the bathroom and in a surprise attack smashes his shadow with a hammer, killing Shadow Alan instantly. Shinpei meets Nezu, who now trusts him and introduces him to Nagumo. Using coded references, Shinpei is able to communicate certain facts to Nagumo so that she instantly knows he is a time traveler who has met her before in the future and is someone her future self trusted. Shinpei cries as he finally has an ally who knows everything. She reveals to Shinpei that a shadow murdered her family 14 years ago, causing her to leave the island and change her name, later publishing a series of books about the experience. Nezu reveals that if a shadow who has copied someone is killed, that person can never be copied again. Nagumo goes to Shiori's home to kill Shadow Shiori and her shadow parents. Based on her behavior, Shinpei suspects the trauma of losing her family caused Nagumo to develop 2 personalities, one being the sister Hizuru who wrote the books, and the other being her murdered brother Ryunosuke. Nagumo kills the parents while Nezu and Shinpei catch Shiori in a trap. She admits she was the shadow who killed Ushio and that once their plan is complete she and her family can go home, so Nagumo kills her. After that, Nagumo confirms she has 2 personalities. She is Hizuru most of the time, but Ryunosuke comes out when she cannot cope or in a fight. Nagumo is their joint fake name and they communicate by recording messages on a tape recorder. Shinpei returns home and finds Mio cooking, which she never does, causing Shinpei to realize his actions have somehow changed events. As he sends her out of the room trying to return events to normal, Shadow Ushio suddenly appears. Surprised, Shinpei notes that she appeared much earlier than normal. She remembers the previous loop and wants to prevent all the deaths from Mother's resurrection. She hides from Mio in his room. As she eats, he pokes her shadow, which she feels, confirming she is a shadow. He prepares to destroy her, but cannot bring himself to do it. Meanwhile, she accidentally makes her clothes disappear, forcing her to wear his spare clothes and finds that she cannot retreat into her shadow like the other shadow. Shadow Mio suddenly enters and attacks Shinpei, but Ushio shields him. Shadow Mio stabs her shadow to injure her arm and demands to know why she betrayed them, and Ushio says that it's because she loves Shinpei. Nezu shoots Shadow Mio with a sniper rifle, allowing Shinpei to stab her shadow and destroy her. Nagumo enters and after assuring that Mio is safe, tries to destroy Ushio, but Shinpei pleads for her life. Nagumo suddenly recognizes Ushio's voice as the one that brought her to the island. They try to treat her arm, but it disappears. Nagumo replays a voicemail where Ushio's voice warns her about the shadows and tells her to trust Shinpei, but Ushio doesn't remember that or recognize her. Nagumo and Nezu spares her, but warn that if she steps out of line they will kill her. The next day, Shinpei and Ushio reveals her presence to Sue, who freaks out for a bit. They give Ushio her phone and she unlocks it to find a video recorded on the day she died. The video shows Ushio and Shadow Ushio as friends. Ushio was aware she would probably die soon and wanted Shinpei to know that Shadow Ushio is not evil. She explains that the first shadow was Shiori's, with Shadow Ushio appearing soon after. They track Shadow Shiori to the island's old abandoned clinic once run by Sue's father Seigo. There another shadow attempted to copy Ushio and attacked her, injuring her by hitting her shadow and proving she was the copy. They killed the new shadow and then recorded the video for Shinpei, which he could only watch if Shadow Ushio used her fingerprint to unlock the phone. Saddened by the video, Shadow Ushio shows them what happened next from a recording of her memories. On the day Ushio drowned, they had been trying to keep Shiori safe from her shadow self. Unfortunately, they failed. Shiori was killed and replaced by the shadow who then drowned Ushio. So Ushio's shadow swore to help Shinpei save everyone before the 24th when Mother returns. Suddenly, Shadow Ushio realizes her memories have been hijacked as the memory of Shiori's shadow comes alive and attacks Shinpei before morphing into Mother, who swears he won't escape again. Shadow Ushio ends the recording, but when they awaken, Shinpei has a hand-shaped bruise where Mother grabbed him, proving it really happened. He announces that they need to head back to the old clinic. A police officer named Miura approaches Mio and her friend Tokiko to ask about Shiori's family. At the clinic, Su finds old bottles of mercuric chloride, a toxic medicine. He also discovers a wooden statue of Ebisu, god of fishermen, but as this statue is female, Shinpei realizes it actually depicts Ebisu when he was born as a leech-like creature believed to be both male and female. They locate a secret door but no key. Shinpei realizes the statue depicts Hiruko as pregnant, causing Shadow Ushio to discover the key inside the stomach. Upon unlocking the door, they find a tunnel shadows could be using to move around unseen. They find a shadow with the body of a deformed baby and manages to kill it when it attacks. Shadow Ushio starts bleeding and realizes the injury given to her by Mio's shadow wasn't actually healed, just temporarily hidden, meaning her shadow body is still badly injured. They hear a sudden gunshot and follows the noise from the tunnel into a natural underground cave. Shadow Ushio panics as they realize that the cave is filled with hundreds of shadow babies who quickly surround them. On the other hand, Nezu and Nagumo prepares to enter the sewers. Back on the surface, Shadow Shiori appears to both Mio and Tetsu. As Shiori is technically a missing child, Tetsu is forced to follow her. After killing the shadow babies, Shinpei sees the cave is covered in coral and connected to the ocean. Ushio's arm grows noticeably worse, and as the only way to heal it would be to copy the real Ushio again, which is impossible. To temporarily stop the pain, she deletes her damaged arm. At the same time, Tokiko suddenly appears. Nezu realizes the cave is the lost Hiruko cave where Hiruko originally washed ashore, the entrance to which was sealed by the army during the First Sino-Japanese War. They comes across Mio and Tetsu and decide to save them. Shinpei attempts to shoot Tokiko's shadow, only to realize that she is human. Su's father is seen with the murdered body of Officer Miura that he feeds to the shadows. Su realizes that his father and sister are both working with the shadows. Nezu and Nagumo meet Shadow Shiori and realize she is actually Mother disguised as Shiori, whom Nagumo greets by the name Hain. Giant Shadow appears and kills Nezu before seriously injuring Nagumo. Tokiko decides to show them the truth but asks Shinpei to keep it a secret from Mio, no matter what happens, and Shinpei agrees. She takes them to a shrine where Hain is shown receiving medical treatment. Tokiki explains that Hain is Hiruko and for generations their family has served her by feeding her dead bodies from their family clinic. Hain eats the body of Miura and almost eats Ushio's body, which was replaced with a fake before the cremation. Tokiko reveals that she serves Hain because she promised to resurrect their dead mother once she regains her powers. Shinpei and Shadow Ushio manage to steal Ushio's real body, which Shadow Ushio scans, repairing her damaged arm. Shinpei tries to shoot Hain, but the giant shadow who has captured Mio severs his fingers. Giant Shadow betrays Tokiko and shoots her and Su. Tetsu finds the injured Nagumo, who asks him to carry her to Shinpei. Hain removes her eye from Shinpei's head, but it returns to him. So instead she captures Shadow Ushio to reprogram her. Giant Shadow reveals that Shinpei's power actually lets him view multiple potential timelines and select one to render into existence, but he can only use it when his brain experiences death, so they will forcibly keep him alive. Giant Shadow then turns towards Mio and kills her. Tetsu arrives with Nagumo, who attempts to shoot Shinpei, but Giant Shadow kills her instead. Seeing an opening, Shinpei swallows the mercuric chloride from the clinic he brought along with him and kills himself. Shadow Ushio begins to resist Hain and even to fight back against her. Giant Shadow tries to kill Ushio's shadow, but she is pulled back in time by Shinpei and they reappear at the meeting with Nagumo and Nezu, where Shinpei first convinced Nagumo that he is a time traveler.
The story continues as Shinpei and Ushio are looped back to the moment he revealed himself as a time traveler to Hizuru and Nezu. Hizuru realizes that Shinpei's eye, which allows him to loop, is made from shadows and that Ushio granted him this power. They decide to work together to the end to avoid failure, after which Ushio shows them her memories from previous loops. Su attempts to talk to his father, but Sato brushes him off. Shinpei and the others show up at the Kobayakawa household expecting the same victorious outcome. Unfortunately for them, Hain and Shide, the four-armed shadow, were inside lying in wait. Hizuru is sent out flying through the window and the four-armed shadow crushes her head while also piercing Nezu's. Hain reveals that the mark placed on Shinpei allows them to follow him through all loops and basically loop together with him. Before he could be captured by the shadows, Ushio lops Shinpei's head off. Instead of instantly looping back, Shinpei and Ushio end up in a memory of Hizuru's from 14 years ago, seeing her together with the real Ruinosuke. They follow the siblings to the Kofun restaurant where Shinpei sees his parents alive hanging out with Karakiri and Alan. Hizuru reveals to her brother and Asako, her best friend, that she made a new friend on Takanasu Mountain. They go out in the rain to the mountain, ending up at the old Hishigata clinic, where Hizuru reveals that her friend is Hain, who awaits them in the clinic. Shinpei and Ushio take a trip through Hizuru's memories as a high schooler, flashing in and out of on various encounters she had with Hain on the second floor of the Hishigata clinic. Hizuru and Hain gradually grow closer, owing to Hizuru's frequent trips to the clinic. On one of these trips, Hizuru runs into Nezu by chance, who is out snake hunting. He warns Hizuru to find a less dangerous path to traverse, but she persists. This persistence leads to concern on the part of Ryunosuke and Asako, who grow worried when Hizuru doesn't return from Koba Mart on time. They deduce that this is likely due to her friend on Mount Takanasu. Ryunosuke, out of concern that Hizuru would grow too fascinated with her activities, traces his footsteps to the old Hishigata clinic. On the way, he encounters a distraught Hain, who promptly kills him. Hizuru, noticing the flash, runs toward it, only to find a bloodied Hain consuming her brother. Hizuru confronts Hain, who goes into a frenzy and loses an eyeball and panickedly sinks into a shadow to escape. Left alone, two shadow babies creep up on Hizuru, threatening to consume her too. As they are about to attack, Nezu intervenes and saves Hizuru. Ryunosuke's data then enters Hizuru, and he takes over their now shared body to deal with the shadow babies. Hizuru is then shown leaving Hitogashima. From a distance, Hain proclaims that the next time they meet she will kill her. Shinpei and Ushio then loop to a moment in time right before they attempt to deal with Shiori at the Kobayakawa residence. He nixes the plan and forms a new one, using Ushio's ability to impart memories to recruit the Hishigata siblings Tatsumura and Mio. However, just as they are about to take action, Shinpei loops again, meaning he was killed instantaneously. Shinpei realizes what happened and deduces that it was a mistake to leave Nezu out so far away. He also notices that the event horizon has caught up closely to him, so if he dies too quickly he will no longer be able to loop and they will lose. The group prepares to make their stand at the school just as Hain, Shide, and hundreds of shadows boldly approach. Takiko, Su, and Mio work together to defeat and capture Shadow Mio, while Nezu and Hizuru take down groups of shadows. Hain and Shide chase after Ushio and Shinpei. Shide absorbs dozens of shadows to gain strength and speed, closely trailing after Ushio, who leads them into the gym. Thinking they have her cornered, Ushio surprises them by turning her hair into gasoline she had copied and dousing them. Shinpei lights Shide and Hain on fire, and the dozens of shadows bonded to the former die instantly, but Hain escapes from the fire. Tatsumura provides a distraction which allows Shinpei to shoot Hain down and Ushio to grab her. As she begins corrupting her, the visibly weakened Shide pulls Ushio into the fire and shoots Shinpei. Shide wants to test his theory that Ushio would permanently die if she is killed before Shinpei, but Ushio has tricked him and struck from behind. As she begins erasing him, she reveals a human body within Shide. But Hain uses her last strength to copy and erase all the air in the gym. The fires go out and they are able to escape, while Shinpei and Tatsumura almost suffocate. Afterwards, Shinpei rushes to Ushio's side, who seems to be exhausted. Seeing her concerns, Shinpei reveals that he is mostly fine, as he learned online how to make a bulletproof vest. The group rejoices that they won and everyone survived, and Ushio is presented with Shadow Mio, whom she cuts off from Hain's control. Shinpei grills Shadow Mio about her origins and abilities of shadows. Shadow Mio is resolute that she is now on their side. Takiko is furious that Mio was copied unbeknownst to her. The group chooses their next goal, which is to capture and interrogate Sato Hishigata. Finding the Hishigata household empty, they head for the clinic, where Takiko leads them down to a secret entrance in the morgue connected to Haruko Cave. In the cave, they find the shadow of Chitos Hishigata strangling her husband. Ushio is able to corrupt her, freeing her from Hain's command. Su resuscitates his father, but he is unwilling to talk and shoots Takiko in cold blood. However, Takiko is revealed to be Shadow Mio, as the real Takiko was copied and stayed behind to protect the real Mio. Seeing how unresponsive Sato is, Shadow Mio attempts to copy him to no avail. Realizing that he was already copied and his copy killed Sato, breaks down. Meanwhile, Shinpei sees Nagoro escaping with the real Ushio's corpse. As the real Takiko arrives, Sato reveals that his dream was for the entire family to become shadows and leave together with Hain to the higher plane of existence she came from. He explains that if Hain is to be killed, all other shadows, including Chitos and Ushio, will die, though the latter is prepared to make that sacrifice. Sato and Takiko retrieve a ledger from a hidden safe detailing the people who were fed to Hain, and Shinpei's parents were among them. Sato details how the Ajiro marine biologists discovered Haruko Cave, forcing Shide to kill them and Sato to feed them to Hain. Ushio tells Hizuru about the memories they saw, theorizing that the section of Hain that broke off when she devoured Ryunosuke is what became Ushio today. Ushio is afraid that she'll turn evil like Hain did, but Hizuru promises to kill her if it happens. Mio and Shadow Mio have a heart-to-heart where the latter reveals that they hate themselves for not being more like Ushio. Sato tells Su that their mother actually passed years ago. Takiko soothes Shinpei, telling him to sleep already, as he hasn't slept since he started looping. At night, Nezu and Ushio go back to his home, where Nezu has finally decided to put down the shadow that copied and killed his wife. Shide absorbs Nagoro to rejuvenate his shadow body. Mio provides some of real Ushio's hair for Ushio to heal herself. The team splits off for separate missions as Shinpei and Ushio begin hunting down the shadow of their middle school teacher Kani Hitabachi, while the others investigate the lives and homes of people who have been turned into shadows and defeated at the gym. After defeating the shadow of Kani, Ushio has a moment where she speaks like Hain. The team regroups, suspicious of the lack of real threats and shadow activity. They surmise that the shadows are hiding out till the festival, so they decide to go talk to Karakiri the priest in order to cancel the festival. Shinpei and Ushio sit down to talk with Karakiri while the others listen in. After some pleasantries, Shinpei holds him at gunpoint and tosses him photos of himself from decades ago, revealing that Sato has told him that Karakiri is actually Shidehiko Hishigata, founder of the Hishigata clan and the husband to the original Hain. When Haruko came to the island and copied her, and that he is actually a human-shadow hybrid progeny who maintains his youth by having his memories and personality copied and placed into a hybrid body birth through actual conception with Hain every few years. Shinpei attempts to convince him to give up Hain, but Shide taunts Shinpei about murdering his parents. Ushio, not wanting Shinpei to become a murderer, steps in and slices the top half of Shide's head off. Relieved for a moment, they are too late to realize that this Shide was a clone, and the real one, still burned from the injuries sustained at the gym, slices Ushio in half and impales Shinpei on a tree with his naginata. Hizuru and Takiko are too late to step in and Shinpei dies, looping back to when he and Ushio saved the kids from the shadow of their teacher, but this time without Ushio. Shinpei breaks down as he was ready to die once to learn the truth about her parents, but not ready to lose Ushio. Hain summons shadows to attack Shinpei and the kids. However, as Shinpei reaches for Ushio's seashell necklace in his pocket, Hain is startled and the shadows retreat. Shinpei tries calling the others, but there is no service in the mountains. In the meantime, Hain uses the guise of Shinpei to call Hizuru's group to the small northern island of Torajima. Shinpei realizes that Hain has copied him in the third loop and now uses that guise in the current 8th loop when he hears from Alan that the others have already gone out to meet him. Shinpei finds Shadow Mio nailed down, who shows him her memories of Mio nailing her down. After the disguised Hain told her that Ushio's hacking came undone with her erasure. Hain calls Shinpei and gives him the ultimatum to save Hizuru, Nezu, Tatsumura and Takiko on Torajima from Hain and Shide, or to save Sue and Mio in Alan's garden from the second Shide. Ruinosuke duels Shide, being able to keep up with his corpse armor form for a while, before Hizuru comes out and they are able to talk directly to each other. Hizuru relays a strategy that would allow them to win and gives Ruinosuke permission to do whatever it takes, even if it breaks her body. Hizuru is able to discern from memories of past loops that Shide's goals might be different from Hain's and tries to pit them against each other. Ruinosuke is able to disarm Shide, after which Hizuru transfers his data directly into Shide's armor, which is composed of empty shadows, allowing Ruinosuke to take control of the armor and create his own body. However, without Ruinosuke holding her up, Hizuru's muscles and bones receive irreparable damage, forcing Takiko to jump in with her shadows. Meanwhile, Shinpei and Shadow Mio are held up by the other Shide, who reveals that Sue and Mio were already taken to be fed to Hain's real body, a fact which Shadow Mio confirms as she can feel Mio die. She decapitates Shide and tries scanning him, but she only unveils that Shide's body holds no memories. They follow a bloody trail from the sewers and find Takiko mortally wounded, having barely escaped after Nezu and Tatsumura sacrificed themselves. As their entire plan went up in flames, Shinpei decides to loop by shooting himself. He immediately rescues Shadow Mio, with whose shadow powers they are able to catch up and save Sue and Mio before they would be set upon by Shide at Alan's garden. Using the sewers and Shadow Mio's powers, Shinpei makes it to Torajima and rendezvous with the others quickly. Unfortunately for them, Shinpei's looping gave enough intel for Hain to feed to Shide about their battle. Thus they find that Shide has already impaled Hizuru on his naginata. Though dismayed, Shinpei again reaches in his pocket, triggering Hain into forcing a retreat. Shinpei attempts to loop to save Hizuru, but Shadow Mio disarms her, warning him of the closeness of his limit. With her dying breath, Hizuru insists that Shide and Hain's goals are actually different and that Shide is actually using her. Before passing away, Hizuru entrusts Shinpei with Ruinosuke's data. As Shinpei mourns over Hizuru's death on the beach, Sato informs him about the whereabouts of her corpse. Shinpei insists that the cause of death should be ruled as murder, and they begin theorizing about the existence of the second Shide. To Sato's surprise, Shinpei predicts a lightning strike. Shadow Mio helps Shinpei realize why Hain and Shide were scared of the seashell necklace, as Ushio stored her memories and what she scanned of Shide in it before dying. As such, Shinpei has an epiphany that the original Ushio from the third loop, who somehow latched onto him in all further loops, would return to Amoto Beach on the day of the festival. Sue blames himself for not being able to help Shinpei bear the burdens of responsibility. Later on he decides to tell Mio how he feels again, but she once again friend zones him. However, Sue prompts Mio to confess her feelings to Shinpei too, who reveals that he thinks of her as a little sister, only still being in love with Ushio. Takiko soothes Mio while Shadow Mio theorizes that she could still have a chance with Shinpei since her competition would be erased together with Hain. Shinpei and Takiko explain his realization to Sato, Nezu and Sue. Shinpei shows how the seashell necklace keeps pointing south towards the Ushio shadow still lost at sea after Shiori's attack. They theorize that the high tides would bring her on land at a later time, so they decide to go search with the help of Takiko's baby shadow Guildenstern preemptively. On the 24th, Shide announces that the festival is moving to the beach with a grieving Alan at his side. Through Shinpei, Ruinosuke thanks Nezu for saving Hizuru years ago. Hain arrives in Shinpei's form to talk with Shide, but not without Tatsumura noticing him. Hain realizes that Shinpei's location is blocked the same way as Shide's is when he's wearing the shadow armor. Shide retorts that all the stray shadows are out at sea, led by the second Shide in the search for Ushio. Though noticed by the shadows, Shinpei is able to reunite with the comatose Ushio, awakening her and restoring her memories and abilities with the seashell necklace. Although Shide is able to destroy Guildenstern, Ushio lets loose, repelling Shide and destroying several strays. Shide notices that his armor and the shadows attacked by Ushio are not regenerating, so he realizes that Ushio can erase shadows just by touch now. After noticing the injuries Shinpei sustained from Ruinosuke using his body, she lunges at Shide. Shadow Mio, who was disguised as Shinpei's watch, stops her and shares the plan with her. Hain, using Shinpei's guise, tries to determine his plan before telling Shide to stop Shinpei from shooting himself. Thanks to the 2-second foresight of Ruinosuke, Shinpei avoids Shide's attack and successfully kills himself, taking Ushio along into the next loop. Shinpei and Ushio loop back and the group exits Gil, at which point Hain is reviled by the fact that Shinpei really set the loop starting point to the group already inside Haruko Cave. Hain immediately sends Shide down to her real body in the cave, falling into Shinpei's plan to hold off the festival massacre. The group is held up by strays, so Takiko decides to stay and buy time for the others with Gil's help. However, further off, the group is stopped by a wall of shadows which is part of Haruko's very body. Shinpei also reveals his secret weapon, which are copied fireworks from the festival which Shadow Mio provided. While Shide and Hain hurry down to her real body, the fireworks break through the wall, and the group proceeds. The second Shide catches up to them at the wall, so Nezu stays behind to hold him off. The group arrives at Haruko's real body, where Hain and Shide strike from above. Ushio forces Shide on the defensive, but Shinpei can't use Ruinosuke's ability for the kill shot, while Hain can relay it to Shide telepathically. However, Shadow Mio startles Hain and she falls into the trap, and her shadow is pinned by Sue. Mio wounds Hain so that she can't relay info to Shide, allowing Ushio to punch his face off and kill him. Unfortunately, the second Shide, having absorbed tons of strays, is able to break through the shadow wall. Ushio wards off his attacks and is able to pummel Hain's giant shadow. Shide's shadow armor fades away and Shadow Mio stabs him in the brain. Shinpei finds Ushio as she displays Hain's red eye in her right eye once more. Both Shinpei and Ushio's right eyes bleed profusely, while Shadow Mio is baffled by the fact that she and Ushio are still alive. Just then, the faceless Shide from the festival in the third loop emerges. The third Shide emerges with the mortally wounded Hain reduced to a toddler form. He loathes Hain now that she is useless to his goal. Shinpei voices his disgust of Shide, who promptly slices Hain's shadow open, revealing an entrance to the timeless world of shadows. As he jumps in with what remains of Hain, Shinpei and Ushio follow suit, resolved to prevent his end goal. Shinpei awakens in the timeless world separated from Ushio. Ruinosuke takes control of his body to alleviate his pain, and they bond during their search for Shide and Ushio. They follow Ushio's signal to the mirrored town on Hitogashima, finding her in the middle of a breakdown surrounded by stray shadows. Ushio realizes that she was born from the part of Haruko which was originally Hain, the original human she copied and the one Hizuru befriended. The original Hain emerges from her and emphasizes that Shide is the one who forced her on his conquest in order to gain her eyes, with which he could control space and time. Shinpei concludes that Shide has become obsessed with pulling the plug on the world, like a 2D character in a video game disconnecting the console in the 3D world, which is the ending he desires. Just then, a fleet of American B-29 fighter planes begin bombarding the whole of Wakayama, with Shide riding one of them, the remains of Haruko's body tethered to his armor. Hain explains that the aerial fleet was summoned by him through Haruko's memories. Hain stops the projectiles mid-air, creating a path for Ushio to reach Shide. As they engage in battle, Ushio is injured, but she manages to erase the left half of Shide's armor. To her shock, the armor is empty on the inside, and she realizes Shide's secret, that he's still in the human world, remote controlling the armor through the Haruko baby, having only baited them into the shadow world. The armor lunges for Ushio as she falls from the sky unconscious. Ruinosuke grabs Ushio from the sky and Hain notices that her body is in severe shape and she cannot fight anymore. Shinpei proposes that Ruinosuke possesses Shide's armor. Having gained telepathy akin to Haruko, Ushio tells Shinpei and Ruinosuke that she can turn herself into shotgun shells which would hack away the armor, but she needs time. Shide is shocked at Hain's betrayal lunging at them. Ruinosuke and Shinpei's body is able to fight on even terms with Shide for a while using copies of Hizuru's shotgun and sledgehammer. Shide sacrifices one of his right arms to give himself a left one in order to be able to shoot again. Shide attempts to reach Ushio, so Ruinosuke is forced to punch him, breaking off a couple of Shinpei's fingers. Shide takes advantage of this and hurries behind Shinpei, cutting his left arm off in the process. After Shide gains the upper hand and keeps injuring the body, Shinpei convinces Ruinosuke to try possessing Shide's armor. Shinpei collapses from the pain while Ruinosuke tries holding Shide down for Shinpei to shoot. Unfortunately for them, Shide has the memories from his initial fight with Hizuru, where she did the same thing to him, something which Shinpei hadn't witnessed. As such, Shide dispels Ruinosuke and pins him down. Without a shadow in his body, Shinpei starts to disintegrate. Shide starts crying, explaining that he originally wanted to live forever with Haruko before coming to terms with potential mortality. This is what drove him to want to become omnipotent and see the true ending of all life. While Shinpei limps to the shotgun, Ushio having provided the bullets, Shide moves to strike. Ushio and Hain are barely able to move the shotgun closer to Shinpei, who is able to dodge and shoot Shide's armor. As the armor disintegrates, Shide in the real world, revealed to be his wrinkled original body from 300 years ago, also dies since the armor kept that body alive. When Ushio goes to erase baby Haruko, they are transported to the memory of her arriving on the island as a whale. Shinpei realizes that Haruko brought them there not to loop again from the start as a whale, but to end it all. Shinpei sees the child Hain arrive and scares her away from approaching the whale while Ushio erases it. As the shadows begin disintegrating, Ushio attempts to return Shinpei to his body, but he is despondent. Shinpei wants to slowly fade away together with Ushio since his body is mortally wounded. Having confessed their feelings to each other, Ushio nonetheless sends Shinpei back to the moment he first bumped into Hizuru on the boat, while she goes further back to give Hizuru the message to come to the island. Shinpei awakes on the boat with Hizuru blurting out her real identity, no longer knowing where he learned it. Mio, Takiko and Sue greet him on the pier, where he realizes that he came back because Ushio called him a day before. As they begin walking home, they run into Ushio and Nezu. Ushio attempts to punch Shinpei since she is still angry about him leaving before running off. Mio leads Shinpei to Alan's shop despite Shinpei's mom calling him home, where he catches up with Alan and Tatsumura. Shinpei goes to the Hito shrine where the elderly Karakiri Iwao and his son meet him. They tell Shinpei that Ushio has been searching for her seashell necklace non-stop for 2 days. He goes to her and they make up after he finds and gives her the necklace once more. They talk about the fact that they both had the same weird dream. Shinpei sits down with Hizuru for an autograph while also detailing his weird dream. Ruinosuke shows up with Asako and their children Shiori and Hain, with the latter being the birthday girl. The summer festival begins, wherein Hizuru begins writing haphazardly since Shinpei got her out of her writer's block. Sue attempts courting Mio again while Takiko secretly watches. Later, Shinpei and Ushio goes to watch the fireworks together, and on the 25th everyone celebrates Ushio's birthday. And this brings the anime to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Also turn on notifications so you don't miss out on another video. Until next time, farewell.